Let's do it.
What's up, ladies and gents?
Yo.
Welcome back to another full-on board game review.
With Way Brothers.
Today we're talking about the Michael Menzel Legends of Andor. Cody, how does this game work?
So, Legends of Andor, this is a fictional world, little standalone universe. Andor, duh. The board itself is the map of the territory that you're playing in. You've got a little kingdom, you've got some mines and the dark forest, and there's some little hovels somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, you play on this board. You play as one of 4 characters, so this is the base game we're talking about. Neither of us have played the expansions that come with it. This is just straight up Andor. Not to say that the expansions are not Andor, but I digress.
Too much.
In the base game, you play as one of 4 characters. You got a dwarf, you've got a sword man, you got an archer man, and you got a wizard man. And that's exactly what they're called. Don't question me on this. Or they can be women. You can be a dwarf woman.
Yes.
Or
a dwarf woman.
Yeah. You can be one of those.
Little hairy women. And
yeah,
they are technically asymmetrical. They're a little bit different from one another.
Mildly different.
But not very much.
Yes.
Really what it comes down to is how many dice you get.
They're different in that the dwarf is useless. The wizard he can change the dice from really bad to really awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Archer,
the archer can do some ranged attacks.
Yes, ranged attacks.
And then the swordsman just has a lot more dice than the others.
He can recover things quicker because he's a man.
Sure.
Yeah. And that being said, you basically play through different campaigns within the game. There's 5 missions within this game. They have increasing difficulty, starting with simple to complete to nigh on impossible to complete with mission 5. There's been much gnashing of teeth playing that particular game, but I digress. Anyway, yeah. How do you feel about it, Nate?
How do I feel about this game? Well, let's start with what I like about this game, which is that I think it's a very good intro to...
Intro to what?
Intro to both cooperative gaming and both an intro into RPG board gaming.
Okay.
That's because it's a very simple game. It's not super complex. It literally says 10 and up on the board. I mean, it's not... We're not talking like a heavy game here. The mechanics are pretty simple. There's some dice rolling. There's nothing. The players and their specific powers aren't too complicated. There's no cards really very at all. There's some items, but those are pretty simple too. So it's not too complicated. It's just kind of like they made a puzzle into a board game, the way that it works.
Yeah.
But then it also has a lot of RPG elements to it, which once again makes it a good intro stepping stone into playing other heavier RPG games like Gloomhaven and Mage Knight and those sorts of things. Yeah. So it has some good elements about it. The theme is, blasé,
kind of generic.
Yeah.
But it works.
It's okay, And if you're gonna make an adventuring campaign type game, this more often than not is what you're going to come up with, because that's what that's what your journeys and quests come from, are this type of theme. So what do you like about it?
I like that the game, so I always complain about the replayability of the game. I know we're talking about what I like, but I will say that within that, the game does have some randomization. So each campaign has a sort of a different time frame where an objective has to be completed by, or a different area where you have to go find a certain item. So it does change it up a little bit. I do appreciate that. I kind of appreciate the simplicity of it. I mean, take that how you will. I mean, if you like a more complicated game, then maybe it's not quite up your alley. But I think it has an advantage to it in that since it has that cooperative aspect and it's very novel. I mean, this is it's kind of a unique concept to play with. But it's also simple to teach. You can bring this to a game night where a bunch of people who haven't played it can jump in pretty easily and have a good time and be like, wow, this is such a cool game, which is why I bought it for you in the first place. But then as you play it a couple times, you play through all the campaigns, you're like...
I mean, once you've played through the entire campaign, you don't go back and replay it necessarily. Yeah. Even though you might want to try a different character, the characters, like we said, aren't unique enough from one another that it really makes worth going back and playing the second time for that reason.
It helps, but not enough.
A little bit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I've owned and played through this game, I played through this game, all the scenarios, played the whole game, and then it sat on the shelf for a few years because it's like, well, if I play it again, I'm just playing what I've already played. I already know how it works.
Yeah.
But I did end up getting it back out to play with somebody who I hadn't played with before. Like you were saying, it's kind of a game you can bring, even if you've played all the way through. It is fun and easy to teach.
Yeah.
But one of the downsides is that if you're teaching people, or if you're playing with people who are just learning how to play, it turns into this game which a lot of cooperative games suffer from, which is that you get this leader, essentially. Yeah, you get a leader
the alpha player.
Whoever knows the game best or is the best at the game just kind of starts delegating and telling other people, okay, here's what you should do with your turn. Oh, here's what you should do with your turn. No, don't do that, do this,
If you've played Pandemic, you know who that person is.
Or Pandemic, or this game, or Forbidden Desert, or a lot of cooperative games suffer from this, where it's just...
That is rough.
And some other games, like Gloomhaven, does not. Gloomhaven, it's a lot more... You have a lot more stuff that's just for you, that only you know about, that's very independent.
Yes.
It's still cooperative, and you still have a goal, and you need to meet that goal as a group.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of independent stuff that happens that really makes it feel like you're still individually playing the game, not just asking someone, the most experienced player, okay, what should I do?
Yeah. Because then you're not playing the game, you're just mildly participating by existing.
It's like being colorblind, building a puzzle with someone who's not colorblind. Well, where does this go? Here's my piece.
Have you done that before?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
And that's not the worst thing in the world if you're okay doing a scenario with that. And, other people are still going to have good input and, like feedback, and like, you can still have good discussions about what's the right move for certain people to do. Yeah. There's not very much individuality for each person. Yeah. There's every person's turn kind of becomes a discussion, basically. Yeah. Which is good and bad.
Because turns play within a day. So the campaign, each mission happens over the course of a certain amount of days. Every time a day ends, like, creatures move closer to the castle, for example. Other things happen, so you're on kind of a time crunch. Most cooperative games are like that.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, so
they kind of have to be. Otherwise,
you just hang out.
But that's actually one thing I do like about this game is the mechanic of, in each day you have like 8 actions or whatever, and you could use those all in your first turn, or you could just use one of them or a couple of them, and you just all keep going until you've used up all of your actions. And so you do have a lot of freedom that way with,
that's true.
I need to go do this very quickly, so I'm just going to go do that and spend all my actions to do it. And now I'm done for the day, but, at least I had the choice to go do that.
And you feel important. Well, when you split up the tasks, like, you can be the archer and go over here and fight a guy from range so you're not in danger of dying. And then if you're the dwarf, you can go over to the dwarf town mine
merchant
city place and do cool things. Yes. Yeah, so that's nice.
So are there any other mechanics that we like in this game? Like specific?
No.
Another thing I do like about this game is the dice. Actually, there is a little bit of dice rolling, which is kind of how combat is determined. But you have some control over how many dice you get and how you use them, kind of.
According to your power level, as you increase that, you get more dice that you can roll, which increases your chance.
And you have items that can help in that too, and items that help with other things.
Little boost one-time uses, so it becomes strategic.
It does get some strategy. It's not just throwing dice.
Yeah.
So
although it is ridiculously annoying when you're down to the final part, you've planned everything perfectly, and you're fighting the dragon, and then he just rolls like 12s after 12s.
That's the truth of all dice games.
Yes.
All games with dice.
So, yeah, I won't complain because I love D&D, and that's entirely a dice game. But how do you feel about the design of this game, the overall?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already kind of talked that it's a little generic.
It is.
But I think it works. I think it's I like the enemies are pretty original for the most part.
Yes.
If I'm remembering correctly. They're not super original, but the art is cool on them. They have good design. Yeah. The dragon is fine. I mean, it's a dragon, wings but
pop on.
Yeah, it's not bad. Cool. And I think the board looks pretty. There's kind of, you have your grasslands and then the mountains and the forest. It looks nice. And then the flip side is that whole tunnel mine system.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Which is actually that's disappointing to me because there's a flip side. You can flip to this board to get a whole other map. Yes, literally. Yeah. And you only use it for one scenario, I think, which is really it's a missed out opportunity. What they should have done is made the whole campaign with the one side of the board, and then you have the flip side of the board where maybe you can do random scenarios, that sort of thing. It works more as it gives it some replayability for after you finish the campaign. Well, you flip the board and now there's randomizer cards and there's goals that you can set up, and so it would have been nice for them to utilize that a little better, I think. But it's cool that they did it at all.
It kind of leaves room for expansion, which Nate ask me how to redeem this game.
How would you redeem this game?
I'm glad you asked, Nate, because if you're a D&D fan out there, create a campaign based on this that uses the map, uses all the locations and everything, create new character classes, and use those instead of the little boards that come with the game. And then this is a great D&D setup.
Right? Great, with a loose definition
Decent.
of great, maybe.
It's a way to redeem this game. Yeah.
Yeah, so a way to redeem the game.
Yeah.
So hopefully we somewhat influenced how you, whether or not you would want to get this game or how you feel about this game.
I would
it's
say
not
get
bad.
it.
It's not bad. It is fun, and it is fun to play through at least once, and then maybe pass it on to someone else or use it for things like this, where it's still pulling its weight. It's creating content right now. So, but it's not a bad game. It is fun to play. It does have some unique stuff in it, and it's simple. You need to go into it knowing it's simple, but it's not mind-numbingly simple.
Yes. So there's still things to do. And it does become frustratingly difficult in kind of strategy and tactics, especially on the final mission. So
it can.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching another Way Brothers video. Way, of course, standing for
Wood and Eagle.
So check out our other videos. We have Should I Buys, just the short reviews. We got more of these soundtracks
for your
all
games,
sorts of stuff. So subscribe, keep watching.